Hello, everybody, and welcome to Play Some Video Games, the only gaming podcast consistently running at 60 frames per second and utilizing a full 13 teraflops. It is I, your host, Kevin. We thank you for tuning in each and every week and spending some time with us. This week on the podcast, 2 weeks in a row now, is Mr. Lobo Rican himself. Q, how we doing, buddy?
We're doing great, man. Fantastic over here. Things are getting warm. It's good. Good times.
It's always a good thing. It's warm up here too. And also by up here, that means somebody else from the podcast is in my neck of the woods, and Josh is with us this evening. How we doing, man?
Doing great. We had all the windows open today. It's been a nice change from shoveling ice and snow last weekend, so I'll take it.
Absolutely. I had the windows down today too as well. All the kids in the neighborhood outside. It was a good sight to see for once. But let's jump right in and talk about what we've been playing since we last joined everybody here. And Q and I, it's only been a week, so I don't know about your list. My list is pretty short, but let's have Josh take the limelight first. So, Josh, what have you been up to? What have you been playing?
All right, so gaming has been super crazy tight and hard to get to recently with the baby and everything. One of the things I've been playing, I'll leave for later because it's going to be a topic we talk about. Otherwise, I mean, before the podcast started, I was playing some Shovel Knight on the Switch. I pick that up whenever I can. You know, I'm still in the first game of Shovel Knight. I'm kind of reaching my 8-bit. What's the word? You know, you play that Ninja Turtles game for the NES, and you can only play it for so long before you want to throw it against the wall.
Yep.
And at that point in Shovel Knight right now, that I'm in one of those levels, two of those levels where I'm consistently dying and losing all my gold and spots where I can't get it back, and I kind of just want to pick up those Joy-Cons and toss them across the room. So I think I'm going to stop. I'm pretty much in the last two levels of the first game. I'll pick up, I think it's Torment of something or Spectre Knight or whatever the next game is in the series. Because it has 3 games.
Yeah.
Can't think of the second one. Whatever the second one is.
Spectre of Torment and Plague Knight was the other one.
Okay, so the second one. I know that Jason is already on to the second one or almost the third one now.
He's on the third one. He actually went back. I think Plague Knight is technically the second, and then Spectre of Torment's the last one. I think. Don't quote me on
so that's what I'm going to do for that. The majority of my gaming in the past, I don't know, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since I've been on, has been all Horizon. As much as I can get of that game. I actually had to put it down because I could keep playing because I love it to death. But I picked up Mass Effect today. I was debating. It was either Mass Effect or Breath of the Wild or Ghost Recon. And I kind of figured Mass Effect's probably that game I want to start now because I might not want to pick it up if I start playing Ghost Recon or Breath of the Wild right now. And I'll tell you, you know, you guys know me on the Slack chat and how fervently I defend Mass Effect. So, you know, I picked it back up and, you know, I said, you know, baby was laying down, Ashley was doing laundry. So I was like, oh, I'll play it for like an hour. And, you know, that thing happens where I play it for like 4 or 5 hours, but it wasn't like it used to be.
No.
It wasn't like playing a game for 4 or 5 hours. Like, I want to like it so much. I really do. And it's killing me to wear my N7 stuff all the time and to have already ordered my Andromeda loot crate till now. I want to like it. It's really making me try hard. Even the character development stuff. I spent an hour talking to all my new characters, my new squad when I got back to the base. And it even took me a little while to figure out where I was going. Like, what I like about Mass Effect so much is how linear it is while feeling like it's open world. And this game doesn't have either of those things. I got to a mission on EOS, and you scan this alien structure, and it's like, go rescue the medical team. And then they don't tell you where the heck the medical team is, and you have a 2-minute timer.
Oh, Jesus.
By the time, I never even figured out where they were. They just lost. So, like, I'm getting a little frustrated with it. And even after the patch, I started even running into like just clipping issues and texture drop in and outs. So, I mean, I'm not giving up, but I don't know if I'm gonna. I might just put in Ghost Recon when I hop on the Xbox next, just because I know it's good, and I played it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I can't wait to. And that was just the beta on the PlayStation, so now I can play on the Xbox and get my achievements and everything. Sorry for rambling on the gaming thing. And then the last game I'll talk about. I started playing. I think it's called 8 Days.
Yep.
This game I'm reviewing, and maybe I don't know. I think I'm just burnt out on pixel games, and I only played it for a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna set up some Beam, and I'll beam some 8 Days, so everyone can kind of commiserate with me while I play, and you'll watch me die a lot because apparently that's something that happens in this game is you just constantly die and die and die and die. And it's made by Badland Games, which I've had a good track record with, but I also die a lot in their games, so maybe that's just a trend. But by the way, I kind of need one of these tonight, so cheers to games.
Cheers to games. So I'll jump in next because I don't have a whole lot on my list. Yesterday, I did finish Breath of the Wild. And by finish, I just mean I beat the game. I didn't do everything because I ain't got time for that. I got too many other games to move on and play. But I will stay completely spoiler-free here, but I will say that whole final chapter, the whole journey to Hyrule Castle, the whole battle with Ganon, it's pretty epic. But I was sorely disappointed, and once again, no spoilers here, but if you're playing Breath of the Wild, if you do not get all of Link's memories, you do not get the actual ending to the game. So I kind of saw everything, and I'm like, oh, that's it? And everyone's asking me, well, did you get all the memories? He said, no. Well, there's a whole other ending if you get all the memories. So I'll be watching that on YouTube because I'm probably not going to want to do that final battle again anytime, at least not anytime soon. I'll do it again eventually, but I don't want to jump back in and do that again anytime soon. So moving on from there, but still great things about that game. You'll hear more from that coming up. We are planning on doing a review cast of Breath of the Wild, so hopefully this week, fingers crossed. Other than that, last week at work, I wrapped that up, so start the new job tomorrow. I am reviewing a game currently right now as well on PS4. It's called The Inner World. Barely played it maybe about half hour earlier today. Excellent art, kind of unique. It looks like a cartoon and not just like cartoonesque. It literally looks like you're playing a cartoon. And it seems to be like the old type of LucasArts type games where you're going to, the adventure games, you're going to, take the item from here and you use it here to get to the next part. It seems like it's going to be one of those type of experiences. A lot of voiceover work in it as well. It seems like every character has a voice, so it's not just like reading text, which is kind of nice. But yeah, a little too early to say anything about that. And the last thing, the PSVG guys are going to laugh about this, but so we've been talking about it a lot on Slack chat this week, and that is none other than anybody watching on video. So I mentioned, I think it was last week or the week before on the podcast that I was testing out different gamer drinks. Actually, it was last week because Q was on too. So I switched to G Fuel this week off of the C4, which is what I was using before. And this stuff is a heck of a lot better. I will say that. I absolutely love it. If you didn't listen last week, these types of drinks are meant to get you off the Mountain Dew, off the Red Bull, off coffee. It's not just for gamers. It's for anybody. They market it. Have lots of vitamin A, C, B12, and B6. Does still have caffeine included in it, so it will give you that little kick, but you don't suffer that big drop afterwards. In the afternoon, you start feeling sluggish. And I can speak to it. It's been working great for me so far this week. I feel just a lot better overall, more energy, more focus. Haven't really tested as far as gaming. I will get to that eventually. Try, maybe with some Destiny or something like that. Just kind of give it a go and see if my reflexes or anything are improved as they advertise with that. So just simply love it. And I know Josh is getting some, Dev is getting some. I think maybe some of the other guys ordered it as well. We'll see how it goes on. So we'll talk more about that down the line. Yep. Did you get it too?
I ordered some. Yeah, man. It hasn't come in, but it's on the way.
Nice. Yeah. So I've done 2 orders now. Plus I got 2 more shakers coming this week. So I'm all in right now, but we took advantage of some sales that were going on. So we'll report more back about G Fuel later. But so far, I love it, and everyone else jumped on the bandwagon with me, or at least most of the guys have. Who was it? Kyle. Kyle thinks I'm going to die from drinking it. So
because that kid drank like
like
10 times the normal serving and killed himself.
Yeah, it was like, well, no, he didn't kill himself. He just got really sick.
Okay, I thought he died.
I don't think he died. But he was like 6 or 8, and he took like 10 times the normal dosage. It was like, he was like slurring his words and was shaking and stuff. So yeah, don't do that, because each one they do advertise is about the same caffeine as a cup of coffee. And you wouldn't drink 10 cup of coffee at like age 8 at once. That's a terrible idea. So yeah, it is what it is. But that's it for me. So let's move on. Q, what you been playing? What have you been up to, man?
Yeah, man. Just I went back to Mass Effect for a little bit. I actually got pulled in by a couple guys. Nathan from PSVG pulled me in to play some multiplayer with him and a couple other guys. Sluggigs and Mr. Bunk. I probably messed up his gamer tag, but I think it's Mr. Bunk. Man, he's gonna get on me so bad later for messing that up. Anyway, so that was fun. Multiplayer Mass Effect was a lot of fun. It's kind of like a horde mode, like you're fighting off waves of attackers. It's not something that I would dump like tons of hours into, but it was a really nice experience. And honestly, just been playing a lot of Ghost Recon Wildlands, man. I love that game. I really love that game. It's the kind of game that I play for 2 hours and I feel satisfied. I feel like I've accomplished a lot. I step away, I come back maybe a couple days later and play, 3-4 more hours. And I actually joined a Xbox club online just for that game. And I've been playing Xbox clubs. Yeah, like the clubs. The clubs.
That's good stuff.
That's awesome. I've been playing with random strangers on Ghost Recon, and it's just so much fun to just wreck the sandbox with complete strangers. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to play that game with just people that and just getting to know them online. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And besides that, just schoolwork and trying to find some good shaving cream, man. That's what I got. That's what's been going on.
You got to do I know we're not sponsored by G Fuel. We're also not sponsored by Dollar Shave Club, but I don't know about you. I'm obviously not shaving now, but I did Dollar Shave Club, and they have this thing called shave butter.
Oh yeah, that's
awesome.
So good.
It's so good.
Actually,
it's way better than shaving cream.
There's a local company in North Carolina called Burt's Bees.
Yeah.
And they actually, their office is like down the road from here. And they actually make something called Burt's Bees like shaving cream or shaving butter, which is a lot like the shave butter from Dollar Club. So, but it's made from completely natural stuff, so there's no irritants and stuff in it. So it's good stuff. That's what I kind of settled on.
I wanted to ask you about Mass Effect real quick. I want to get into that multiplayer because I've been dying to play it. But I wanted to. I saw you and I got jealous because I saw you and Nate played the other night, and I was like, crap.
Right.
I missed out. But because I liked Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, and I hear it's a lot of the same.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you did you download the app for Apex HQ?
Yeah, I've been using the app, but the app mostly does things for the single player campaign.
That's awesome though. Like I logged in.
Great.
I had like 67 silver loot rates, but the problem is they make you unlock them one by one in the game.
Right. Yeah.
So you got to sit there, and even I was having issues with it. Wasn't catching up with everything I was clicking. So they're even having like issues with like opening boxes.
Yeah. That was a drag, but if you're playing Mass Effect, you need to download the app, Apex mobile app. You get so much loot in game in the campaign just by playing the mobile game. And literally it's like a very passive experience. You go in, you send your teams out in missions, and then you get a notification like a couple hours later, hey, your team is back, and you're like, cool, let me send them out again.
Yep. It's
really low key, and I mean it's pretty legit. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of that part of the game. It's probably developed by somebody else, so. Sorry, I'm turning on him. I'm very unhappy.
I know you've been the guy that's been giving everybody else crap for talking about Mass Effect, and you're pretty harsh today.
Yeah, I'm as they call me, Kevin Salty. I'm a little salty today. It really, I don't know. We should do our own podcast on Mass Effect because
Oh, I'm sure that's coming. We have enough people
keep
playing
you
it.
guys
We can
hostage.
definitely do a review cast on it. No, that's true. We should. We'll set that up.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're ready to move on about what we've been up to and check in with you guys, the audience at home, and it's time to check out some messages. Our first message comes from our buddy Paul C. Regular listener sends us lots of questions. So first I'm going to read his 2 comments he had and then kind of flip back to his questions. I'm going to read it out of order, Paul, so I apologize. First thing he wants to say based on some comments we had last week, number 1, Spider-Man is going to be so bleep awesome. Just so I don't have to bleep out Q again, And then he also piggybacked off what I said about Cyborg in the Justice League trailer, and he also said he wished Cyborg looked a little bit more like the new RoboCop. So I agree. It would have been a nicer take. It's still better just pure CGI, I think. So, but his question this week is number 1. Actually, it's all kind of tied in together. So he wants to know whatever happened with Dead Space. Do we think there'll ever be another one? And he loves it when he puts y'all in the question, so he made sure to include it this time because he hasn't. Did y'all like the games and transformation from survival horror to action horror as the games progress basically throughout the storyline? So I'll jump in first. So I'm not sure whatever happened in Dead Space. I'm hoping maybe at E3 this year they kind of pop out and surprise us all saying they're working on something. I was a huge fan of 1 and 2. 3, it kind of lost me a bit. I don't think I ever beat 3 actually because it lost me. So I really hope there'll be another one. I don't have any inside info. I haven't heard anything rumbling, throughout the ecosphere here, but I definitely hope they do another one. I enjoyed the series much better when it focused more on survival horror versus the action it kind of went to in part 3, if you will. So, but yeah, I was a huge fan of them. I loved it. They remind me of like the early Resident Evil games, just sci-fi version, which is a good thing. But yeah, it totally lost me at the end. So I'm hoping they kind of not necessarily reboot, but start over and bring it back to its roots and bring back a part 4. What about you, Q?
I played the first one. It was all right. I'm not a big horror person. No. It has nothing to do with the game itself. It's has to do with just I'm not a horror person. I will say this. As much as for the sake of the fans, I want there to be another one. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see another Dead Space in a long time. I mean, Visceral is working on Star Wars, man.
That's true.
EA bought those rights from Disney, and when you look at what's going to make them money right now, and for the next, I don't know, God help us, like decade, it's going to be Star Wars video games.
Yeah.
I mean, you have at least 3-4 more movies coming out. I mean, BioWare, Visceral, all these studios, they're all on Star Wars IPs right now. And Dead Space 3 did not sell very well. I mean, that sucks. I mean, you said it like yourself, like it didn't hook you, right? Like out of all 3 games, that's the one that didn't really like get you hooked. And EA knows that. They know that they kind of fell with the last one. And when you have to choose between a game that the last iteration did not do well and Star Wars, which is like, I mean, it's like you're going to break
money.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, hey, you put a studio on Star Wars, and that sucks for, like other franchises that have been there before. But maybe at E3 we'll see something. Hey, by the way, you're getting this Dead Space things. I just don't think that's something I would put my hopes on right now.
No, it's a good point. I forgot they work on the Star Wars stuff now. So that's a good point. I think you're right. Unless they sell the rights off to somebody else, it's probably less of a chance. Josh, what about you?
So I have a surprising amount of things to say about this. First of all, Dead Space 2 EA Access. You can go play that right now. One of the best survival horror games ever made. And if they didn't have a Dead Space 3, I could say one of the best survival horror genres of all time. But this is the problem. There's good and bad about EA owning companies and publishing companies. They listen to the wrong things, and they publish great games, but when they put out Dead Space 3, they listen to the wrong group of people. It's very much like Battlefront. They're like, oh, people don't want a story mode in Battlefront. They just want multiplayer. That's your very specific group of people. It's a large group of people, but that's all your competitive players, and EA listens to those guys. When they went and they said, okay, we're going to make Dead Space 3 a co-op action horror game, no one, in my personal opinion, who loved Dead Space 1 and 2 like I did, wanted that game. The game was horrible. It was like a cover-based shooter, didn't know what it was. It was all over the place. There was no actual survival horror aspects to it. It was more like Gears of War, except the controls were awful. It's like they abandoned the original gameplay and started from scratch. So I'm kind of bummed about Dead Space 3. It's kind of like the Dragon Age 2 kind of thing in the Dragon Age series, and it's like a lot of these EA games where they kind of mess with the formula. I will say this. Surprise Xbox exclusive, I bet we see Dead Space 4. But it won't be called Dead Space 4. I bet it's called Dead Space. Something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I know Visceral's working on Star Wars, but it's under the EA banner, so they can do whatever they want. They can put any studio on Dead Space. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see another Lost Planet game, which is way overdue for a reboot or a sequel. But great question, because like Dead Space doesn't come up enough in conversation, because with another Resident Evil game every year or so, it just takes over the conversation. People forget about these awesome games like Condemned and Dead Space.
Condemned's a good one too. I'd love to see that come back. But yeah, that's a good point. And I think that even if Visceral wasn't the one working on it, if EA did pull a move like that and say, okay, new team working on an Xbox exclusive, that would be a great pull for Xbox, because even if it's not Visceral working on it, people will still give it a shot and be excited to see it come back. Hopefully it would be good regardless, but that would surprise a lot of people. So that could be a bombshell at E3 for sure. That'd be awesome.
You know what game they should bring back on the Scorpio? Bible Adventures. That thing came out in 1991. You could be Moses. You could be David and Goliath. I mean, that stuff was insane.
Like, imagine NES Mini.
Imagine that on the Scorpio. Imagine that on the Scorpio. That would 4K. Be like saving them animals, man. I mean,
two of every animal.
So good. Yep. Yep. That's right.
Oh, jeez. All right. So thank you.
That was obviously not serious. No one barraged me later on Twitter like, that's the worst game ever made, man. It's like, calm down.
So thank you, Paul, for sending the question again. So next one, Jeff writes in. He says, great show, guys. Love listening in every week. If nothing sticks to Teflon, how does it stick to the pan? I'm going with black magic. What do you guys say?
Oh, it's rubber and you're glue.
I feel kind of left out of this. I don't know what this is.
You know what Teflon is?
No.
All right. So when you have the non-stick fry pans, it's coated with Teflon. So if it's non-stick, how does it actually stick to the pan when they make it? Q's like, can't we have video game related questions? What is this?
I love you, Jeff. I don't know who you are, but I love you, man. I have no idea.
That says it all right there. So, I'll
say this. Okay, this is my interpretation. When it's liquid, it sticks, but once it solidifies, it's stuck. Boom.
Okay.
I have no idea if that's true or not, but maybe.
Jeff, if you've heard of this thing called Netflix, Bill Nye the Science Guy has a new show coming out. You could probably write into him, and he'd have much better answers for you. And let's face it, Bill Nye is a lot cooler than us too. So well, you get a shout out on a more popular show than us. But anyway, thank you, Jeff. Last question this week comes in from Robert. He wants to know, now that we're getting closer to the nice weather, which is ironically enough because we all have good weather today, what is our favorite nice weather activities? So, Josh, what do you like to do in the nice weather outside?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's going to be 80 here on Tuesday, and I am stoked because I'm going to be outside on the grill. And it'll be the first time we can bring the baby outside without being in a car seat covered in 4 blankets. So we'll be sitting out in the backyard. We'll do some raking because we get a lot of mess to clean up after this weather. And put some burgers on the grill and have a beer. That's my favorite nice weather activity, is cooking a steak or burgers for everyone in the family and just relaxing and enjoying it.
Q, how about you? What do you plan on doing when the weather warms up?
Yeah, man, I'm planning on going out there and playing more Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I look, man, they did this water Pokemon festival, and I don't know. I mean, Josh knows what I'm talking about. It's like you got like a ton of water Pokemon, and I'm like, No love for fire Pokemon, man. Where are my fire Pokemon? I want a summer of fire Pokemon. That's what I want. I'm going to play some Pokemon Go now that it's getting warmer, and I'm going to have people over. Maybe I live out in the woods, so I just like to have people over and just hang out outdoors, maybe like use the fire pit and just kind of just hang out outside, man. Just hang out
Watch out for
outside.
bears.
I used to be, yeah. I'm gonna walk into the woods and I won't come back until I have a bear's cranium in my hands, man.
Oh God.
Oh, boy. We're gonna have a bear on the podcast next week because you will be dead.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna have a PETA letter in the mail next week.
Just special guest next week. Hey, Bear, what have you been up to since last week? Well, this guy came into my woods and he tried to fight me.
Yeah. Friggin' psycho.
So for me, Josh kind of stole my answer too. I do actually enjoy grilling as well, which has kind of just been last couple year type of activity for me. But as you all may know or may not know if you're watching at home, I'm a ginger. I can't go outside for more than like 5 minutes. So my favorite nice weather activity is sitting inside with air conditioning. So I'll be doing plenty of that.
No AC in April. I forgot to mention, Kevin, this is a perfect opportunity for me to live out my Nintendo Switch Super Bowl commercial. Should I go buy 1-2 Switch and play with everyone in the backyard on a nice
As you're grilling, just milk those cows, baby.
Yeah, I won't be able to see the screen at all because of the glare, but I'm sure it'll be great.
No, you have one of those like outdoor umbrella things on your patio set.
We do have one of those, yeah.
See, then you're all set. You're good.
I'll just be doing this.
Yeah, and then if you're really cool, you could be like Jessica, whatever her name was, and have rooftop parties.
Yeah.
And then play Mario Kart. No, well, yeah, no. Just go on somebody else's roof. It's okay.
Oh, man.
As long as you're playing a Switch. Nobody cares. So thank you, Robert. Thanks for writing in. Thank you to everybody that writes into us. But if you want to reach out to us, make sure you send us an email at podcast@playsomevideogames.com, or you can tweet at us at PSVG. You can send us questions, comments, feedback, whatever you want to do. As you can see, we answered a question about Teflon this week, which nobody thought we ever would, and we kind of didn't anyway answer it. But hey, we'll shout you out on the podcast, and we'll go on from there. But now that we're all done with the messages, it's time to move on to the news of the week. And our first story this week comes in from the University of Utah. They have announced a varsity esports program starting with League of Legends, part of the Pac-12 conference. Utah is the first Power 5 school to sponsor this type of program, and it doesn't plan on stopping at one game. The team sponsored by EAE Video Game Development Program hopes to expand to a total of 4 games, according to the Salt Lake Tribune. Students from the current campus esports group Crimson Gaming, as well as high school recruits, will be part of the team. Players will receive partial scholarships with an eventual goal of over 30 student athletes and coaches to be on scholarship there. Wow. Esports has already hit the Power 5 in another way with the Big Ten Network through the Riot Games ULOL competition, and schools like Robert Morris College in Chicago and University of Pikeville in Kentucky have offered scholarships in the past. But this is the first step for a major conference. With Utah's investments, college esports appears to be catching the eye of more than just the students. So this is kind of crazy. I never thought we'd be in this day and age that you'd get a scholarship for college for being really good at like Counter-Strike. I've actually just recently started getting into the world of esports and watching some of the competitions. Over the weekend, they actually had a Counter-Strike Go competition. It was like using pistols only. It was nuts. And ironically enough, the team I was rooting for, FaZe team, also sponsored by G Fuel.
Nice.
They actually took home the prize. It was like $175,000 that like 5 guys get to split up. So it's just insane the amount of money you can make doing this for something that like you love to do. And like I know a lot of training and dedication would actually go into be this good that you can compete in this level, but it's just amazing that this is giving gamers an opportunity to go to school that maybe they wouldn't be able to otherwise. Like, and they're not a football star, they're not a basketball star, but man, they could play League of Legends like a maniac and they can get a college scholarship. That's crazy, but good on them, and I hope to see more of that stuff. Imagine like during the fall, you have college football on Saturday, you have pro football on Sunday, and like Monday night esports or something like that. That would be nuts. So I'm all for it. I think it's great to see this kind of stuff happen. Just never imagined happen in my lifetime. So, Josh, what do you think?
I think with all my wife's student debt, I really wish I could have done this when I went to college. And you know what? They always say you're never too old to go back, right? So maybe
that's true. Will they allow a continuing education
Yeah.
scholarship?
maybe this G Fuel will get my reflexes going back so I can compete with these 18-year-old kids playing Counter-Strike.
Man, Q must be so mad though right now because like they could have helped pay for your masters.
No kidding. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
But I think the only problem you're going to see, the thing I worry about the most with the competitive esports stuff is they're giving kids scholarships. Like, what are we looking at for when they want to dump kids because they're not being competitive? You know, a lot of kids are going to be relying on this scholarship to help pay for their school. So, you know, if I get in and I'm on team phase or whatever, and I'm great for a month, and then all of a sudden I have a kid or a life event happens and everything changes. Do I lose my scholarship? Like, what happens? And that's dangerous waters. And I mean, it's not, you're messing with people's future. You're messing with kids' futures. Even with football and baseball, stuff like that, it's so tenuous. Like, you never know what's going to happen. You got to be careful with stuff like that. So I'm all for it being taken more seriously. And every day you read about more and more colleges offering like gaming classes and all these kinds of things. That's great. I love it. But if I have to play devil's advocate, which is what I do all the time, and I try to do it well, I'm more worried about the kids that are going to get wrapped up in it that aren't going to be able to stay competitive for 1 to 4 years than I am excited about it. But we'll see what happens.
That's fair enough. Leave it to Josh to think of the children.
Well, now that I have one, I didn't used to. Screw all those kids.
Q, how do you feel about esports and college students?
I think it's cool, man. I think, I mean, when I was in college and undergrad, like everyone was playing video games in every dorm. So it's something that people are really into. I guess like if Josh is looking out for the kids, I'm looking out for the universities, man. I'm like, what's their incentive? And that's what I want to learn at the end of the day. What's their incentive for doing this? Because when you look at football, when you look at basketball and these big sports, they're making money from these events, right? Like football makes schools money. So I guess I'm trying to figure out where would schools generate money from video games? And I'm guessing what's the incentive for them? Because if we find out what Utah's incentive is to do this, then maybe other schools can learn the same incentive and figure out what they should benefit from, sponsoring a team, a varsity team. I think this is really cool. I think at the end of the day, if they're going to be treated like student athletes, I'm very critical of the current treatment of student athletes. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, it's just another group of kids that, they're going to have these great talents. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if a scholarship, if the schools begin to generate a lot of money from their talent, they're not seeing that money outside of a pretty relatively small scholarship compared to the money that school will generate in the long run. So, I'm looking at the negative side of things.
So wait, this was very weird. I was the positive one. Josh was the devil's advocate, and then Q was the negative one. What is going on?
Don't get me wrong. I love college athletics. I'm a huge. I mean, like I bought season tickets for my university and stuff like that for sports. I'm just also very critical of the system that unfortunately I guess I sponsor in some ways at times. So
no, it makes sense, and I find myself struggling a lot with the whole esports thing, and then calling them athletes. I don't know, because like I know it takes skill to do this, but I don't consider it to be athletic. So I kind of have some issues with that. But I think the biggest thing, and as you mentioned the revenue and how the university make money off it. Well, number one, they can still do ticket sales for the events because they do pack arenas right now, which I still find amazing because I'll watch it on TV, but I can't imagine myself paying money to go see one of these tournaments, no matter what it is. That's just me. But college kids, you got nothing going on campus. You got this huge thing and it's like a big party and it's video games and maybe they could do it that way. And I think if they go the route that, professional esports do and allow companies to sponsor the teams, there might be some revenue opportunities there where, hey, if you put our logo on your jersey, we'll give you 30 grand or whatever the case is for the next year, stuff like that I think will pop up too. And I think you might see some instances of that. And then maybe some merch sales to make gamer jerseys for the college. Who knows? But I think the opportunity's there, but it's not going to rake in like football money by any means. I don't think so. But
Do you think this could be bad for gaming? Like, I'm thinking about what Key was saying about kids, kind of like, quote, not, I'm paraphrasing, like washing out of this kind of program. Do you think like someone doing this could be possibly turned off from gaming? And do you think if it becomes more mainstream, do you think that it's going to become too much for people? Like people will lose interest in gaming? Because I mean, we are obviously hardcore dedicated gamers, but a lot of people who are gamers are casual gamers. You think like something that's potentially going to be in their face a lot more often would turn them off from gaming, especially like if they're watching people play Counter-Strike or StarCraft 2, like competitively? Do you think I'm not using girl as the way girls are using gaming, but do you think like a 15-year-old girl watching someone play Counter-Strike on Spike TVs kind of want to get into it more or into it less? Like, that's my worry.
I don't know. I think it appeals to just such a specific person that I'm not sure the audience is going to grow maybe much more than it already is. They'll just have more opportunity to see these types of things. Because like as of right now, like you find this stuff and it's airing at like 2 a.m. on Spike TV, or TBS I know airs some stuff too. So it's not like readily available yet per se.
Right.
But I think you will see some, ironically enough, some like athletes, I'll call them, the pressure get to them, just like you see it happen to like a football, player in college, where it becomes his life, it consumes him, and then something happens and it's just like game over. Are these kids going to go into this thinking, well, I got a scholarship to go to college, but then think of it that this is just my means into the professional, major league gaming, just like some college athletes might be like, I'm only here to get to the NFL, not thinking about life after that, because it's the same thing. I mean, it's science. You're going to get to a certain age and your reflexes just aren't going to be as quick. So you're not going to be able to compete on the gaming level, just like you wouldn't be able to compete on the, the NFL or the NBA once you get to a certain age. So I think you're going to see some of that happen. And maybe some kids just kind of get into it for the wrong reasons, just thinking, well, this is going to be my career. Where I think while esports is hot now and it is getting bigger and bigger, I don't see, I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think 20 years from now, this is still going to be around like it is today. But
yeah, I agree. They tried it back in the G4 days.
Yeah.
With Battle Arena, I want to say it was called, or something.
I forget, but I remember they did do some stuff then. Yeah.
Kevin Pereira used to host it, and it was good, for a couple months. But then you get tired of watching the same game played by different people every week.
Yeah. What they needed to bring back is bring back the Nick Arcade.
Yeah. That was a great show.
Kids actually went to the virtual reality at the end.
Yeah, that was the best.
But yeah, I don't know. We shall see. But it's just exciting to see this happening. So let's move on to the next story. Microsoft has revised the Windows Store policy to remove emulators. The new rule bars any applications that emulate pre-existing gaming systems, resulting in the removal of popular program that supported games from Nintendo and Sega consoles. The new policy explicitly disallows emulators on any device family, meaning the Xbox, PCs, Surface, everything that runs Microsoft and has a Microsoft Store. It is a wide-reaching change that stymies emulation efforts on Windows 10, Xbox One, and mobile devices too as well. I forgot about that. The policy was amended on March 29th and is just now affecting applications in the store. One of the emulators getting the axe is the NES box universal emulator, supported ROMs from the NES and Super NES as well as Sega Genesis period. So I actually had this emulator on my computer, on my Surface at one point, so I'm guilty of doing that. But since then, I kind of agree with it. It's a bit tough with things nowadays, where people want to be able to move through and play some of these games they can't play all the time, and finally get the opportunity to play them when they're not available, or it's like a really rare game. Like, I'm okay with ROMs in that aspect, but if it's something you can get now, especially like on the NES Classic or something like that, like, let it happen. Like, it's fine. Let people be able to they can purchase that, but if they can't get on that, let them be able to play if there's no other way for them to purchase and use that. So yeah, it's a little weird, but I think Microsoft's making the right move there. When they first started putting them like readily available on the Xbox One, I thought that was really weird. So it makes sense to take it off. People can get them anyway, and that's going to be part of what it is, but Microsoft doesn't need to be involved with promoting ROMs and emulators and things of that nature. So not really much other to say that other than good on Microsoft for taking the right stance, I think, on it. What about you, Josh?
I'm going to be a hypocrite. Okay. So let me get it out of the way first. because so I emulated, hacked my folks got an NES Mini. My mom is crazy, and she spent $170
Wow.
on on Amazon to buy the NES Classic. So, but in fairness to them, before even hacked it, they loved it, and they were playing Mario, trying to figure out how to get their extra lives and all that. And so I gave them the 600 plus games today, and then I re-emulated mine to give myself all those games too, because I cherry picked I was like, I don't need Alfred Chicken on my NES Classic. I don't know what the heck it is. I don't need it. But now that I have it, I was playing it. So I get the want to have it, but it's just like Pirate Bay, to be honest with you. Just because we can do it doesn't mean it's right. The way that sorry, the way that I
wait, no, we should address the people at home why Josh just cracked up laughing. So I messaged Q to be careful with the ice because it comes over really loud on the microphone.
Wow. Sorry, guys.
Like 30 seconds after that, he does it again because he's not paying attention. No, it's fine, Q. I was trying to let you know for the people at home. But
no, we're good.
Go ahead, Josh. That's a good laugh.
All right, so I know people use like Raspberry Pi and all these kinds of things that are out there where they can emulate thousands of games. There may or may not be someone on staff who has a Wii U that has thousands of games on it that we always hear about whenever we talk about how much we love our NES Mini. This is the problem that I see with it. I'm glad that Xbox shut that down. I don't think this is the hypocrite in me. I don't think emulators should be available online, and the reason why is we have a retro gaming movement in stores. There are mom and pop shops and even GameStops that are investing in retro games. And what you're literally doing is stealing money from them. You're not doing it on purpose, and they're not trying to take advantage of any situation. They just know that people will pay money for a gold Legend of Zelda cartridge, or just to play Marvel vs. Capcom on the PlayStation 2. So they'll sell it for whatever eBay is selling it for, maybe $10 less or more, depending on the venue, and people will pay it. You know, a lot of people value physical. The reason why, and then the hypocrite part of me, the reasons why I like emulators is because they keep that. It's like storing the memory of that game. So I have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters on my NES Classic, even though I'm pretty sure it was an SNES game.
It was. And I think it was on both, but yeah, the better version.
I'm never going to lose that quality of that game, and it's never going to go away. That's the positive of emulators. So maybe they should do something like PlayStation and charge like 50 cents a game or $1 a game. Like give the game to the developers. Let Konami sell you 5 ROMs for all the Ninja Turtles games. I just think it's all handled wrong, and everyone who does like Coney and all these things where they're in Pirate Bay, we're in this culture where everyone thinks they're entitled to something because once they played something or once they saw something, and you know, everyone's like, oh well, this corporate company, they're rich enough without me, so I can take this from them. But you know, if everyone starts taking, you're not going to have content to take. So we're just in this like culture right now where everyone feels entitled to everything, and I feel like it's going to bite us in the butt in the end. So get rid of emulators. I'll lose my, you know, I'll pay $60 for my 30 games on my NES Classic, and I'll enjoy it. Is it overpriced? Yeah, it certainly is. Especially since I can go buy 80 Genesis games from Toys R Us for $40.
Well, that's Genesis.
Yeah. Well, inferior. I agree.
But no, I see what you're saying. I agree. That's an interesting take on that too. That I too had no problem shelling out money for an NES Classic, and if they just made more readily available, people would buy even more. Or, you know, sell an NES Classic and then sell little chips you can put into it to get more games, and people can buy them at like 30 at a time. And I think people would do it. Totally. I mean, we've seen what it did with the NES Classic, and I mean, there were some great games on there, but there were also some really not great games on there too. And you still to this day can't necessarily walk into a store and find one. I did see one for the first time ever in store last week.
Really?
But ironically enough, I went back to that same store later that night for something else unrelated, and they were gone. So it's like they're still obviously selling out like crazy, but
Yeah.
It's an interesting aspect there. And you look at, so for some people, that's the only way they're going to play a game is through an emulator or ROM. Something I've complained about plenty of times, Mother 3 or AKA Earthbound 2, whatever you want to call it, has not come stateside. People in Japan have been able to play it for years on Game Boy Advance and 3DS and DS, and it's never come to the States. I could download it right now, and I could play it, and people have even translated it for me. But I haven't, because I still hold hopes that someday I'll be able to play it legally and naturally and in a format I'll enjoy. But that's an example of something that I could have gone and done, but I just chose not to for love of the game. But that's enough for me. Q, what are your thoughts?
I don't have any personal thoughts on emulators. I think some of them have been fun when I've played like the old Pokemons on like Nintendo emulators. Here's the thing, man. It's not a conspiracy theory. I think this came straight from Nintendo to Microsoft. I think Nintendo came up to Microsoft and was like, "Hey, you can't support this. You can't just have an emulator that is copying IPs that belong to us or that we work with." So I think I wouldn't be surprised if there was a meeting between Nintendo and Xbox just nodded to Nintendo and said, "You're right, we're gonna do this." So
I agree. That's a good point too, and I can easily have seen. I think I said it even when this news article first came up that like emulators popped up on the Xbox store. I'm like, how has Nintendo not shut this down? Right. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Nintendo's always been kind of big trying to champion the anti-piracy movement because they have that problem.
They don't even like streaming. They're like they're so opposed to so many things that gamers take for granted sometimes. Yeah,
it's true. I mean, we forget too that this is the property of the developers and the publishers, and we can sit there and say like, hey, I want to be able to download things, and it's completely selfish, but when it come down to it, it's like it's that company's property. We can't just go and do that. Like I may say I like Q's car. I can't just go and take his car because I like it. I have no right to it. It's his property. And some of these developers, we may want them to make a new sequel to whatever game that we loved, from 10, 15 years ago. But ultimately, it's their decision. It's their property to make that decision. Whether if they don't want to, they have no obligation to do so. We're just whiny little gamers that just complain about it. So
think about Mother 3, right? What you're talking about. Yeah. And imagine that game couldn't be emulated. Imagine people haven't been able to play Earthbound and all this ground movement of people wanting this company to make another game.
Yeah.
Like if this game couldn't be emulated and played, people would be chomping at the bit to play another one.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives incentive to these companies, whether they do a Kickstarter or just fund it out on their own, to put out a new game out into the environment because people just want this game so bad. So like it's hurting the consumer just as much as it's hurting the company in the long run.
Makes sense. All right, so let's move on to the last story of this evening, and I told the guys here tonight that I would be neutral on this matter because honestly, I think I am. I've said some gripes about this personally in the Slack chat, but nothing that would say that the gamers don't deserve this or don't want it. It's not for me, and that's the Scorpio. So tech specs have been revealed this week. But I'll let Q take it from here because he's a little more informed than I am. I've read some articles and stuff like that, but I don't feel being a non-Xbox gamer that I can really speak to what the differences are between the current formula you guys got going on and what you're looking at with the Scorpio so far. So Q, take it away, man. Show's yours.
Oh man, so I'm not gonna try to explain everything that the Scorpio does and its capabilities because that's not my expertise. I will highlight some things that I think are important. And I think at the end of the day, one thing that we need to highlight is the fact that it is a very powerful console. And I think it's easy to say, well, yeah, that's what everyone says. But no. Like that's the thing. Like this is a very powerful machine. When Microsoft said last year that they were going to deliver the most powerful console that's ever been built, Digital Foundry, the ones that were there at the release date, when they were the ones that were invited by Microsoft to come to the little release. I don't know what you call it, the event. I mean, they said it like it's like this is a very. I mean, they delivered on the power of the console. I think one way to I'm not gonna read all the specs because that's something that people can go look it up online. But something that I think really kind of highlights the power of the machine is Digital Foundry ran a test on a Scorpio that they built in front of them. So Microsoft brought out an engineer, and they had all the pieces for the Scorpio in front of them. And the engineer literally assembled the Scorpio right in front of Digital Foundry, the guys from Eurogamer, and they utilized it. So it was Microsoft being incredibly transparent, being very upfront, and being like, this is the machine we built. This is the machine we're going to ship out later this year. And I think one of the things that really hit home for me was when they talked about the GPU power capacity of the machine. They were running, I think, Forza. They were running Forza at, I don't want to waste too much time. But basically, they were running Forza at its max graphics and power capacity. And it was only utilizing 62% of the Xbox, of the Scorpio's power. When you compare that to the Xbox One to run a Forza at 60 frames per second, it uses 90% of its power capacity, of its GPU capacity, not power, GPU capacity, while the Scorpio is only using 62%, which means there's a lot of leftover GPU capacity to maximize the gaming experience for the consumer, for the gamer. It's a very powerful console. And that's all that I want to talk about for the technical issues, the technical stuff. Josh, what do you want to jump in there and throw and just share some thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the information. I mean, if you watch the Digital Foundry thing, you're going to see everything that you need to know. It's really just kind of like a teaser. It's like a teaser trailer for Scorpio. The problem is everyone wants to kind of jump on this and make assumptions about what they're going to get. Mm-hmm. And we've had our own conversations in the PSVG chat, and everyone has their own opinions. Mm-hmm. It remains to be seen if it's going to be the equivalent of a new console or a PS4 Pro update kind of thing. What we can only tell right now from the video is how much better the games will look, how the load times are basically going to be eliminated for the most part, how it even says in the video, they went back and they went through every Xbox One game and made sure that Scorpio was, if it's going to make it run at 60 frames per second constantly, that they made sure they went and checked every game and made sure that worked. It's not just going to be an upscaling, and if it is, it's just going to be the regular game, and it might just look a little bit better as far as like the drop in and drop outs of textures. Maybe like Mass Effect might benefit from that. They showed Forza Motorsport 6 demo, and they were showing the differences. They also showed some differences between the Xbox One and the Xbox One S, and how those frame rates increased, and how much better the Scorpio is going to be. The question that's in the air is, what are we getting? We know what's in the box. We know that they were very specific in saying it's backwards compatible, which was an interesting comment for me to hear in that video. The guy kept saying it will play all your 360 and Xbox One games. It will be backwards compatible. So could Microsoft be surprising us after everything they've been telling us that it's not going to be a new console, and it really is? It's very possible. Because you got to remember, we've all talked about it. Phil Spencer's no idiot. Maybe this is in his best interest to surprise everybody with, hey, get ready for this E3 briefing. It's on a Sunday also, by the way, a Sunday afternoon, which Microsoft has never done, which makes it available to everyone to watch. Maybe they're going to blow our minds, and maybe this is going to be the next Xbox that plays Xbox One and 360 games. that's opening a whole nother can of worms, which we can talk about, because that's the whole console life debate, which in my opinion, I hate the PS4 Pro. I hate that it exists because it alienates all of their customers. It came out 3 months after I bought my PS4, and it just gives me an incentive to never buy a 4K TV because I'll feel like I'm losing out. I hate that they did that. I won't be super happy with Microsoft if this is just another push for consumers to spend $500. And you guys know I'm a big Microsoft fanboy.
Well, something that we just I'm sorry, go ahead. Continue.
No, go ahead.
Something that we discuss in our own personal conversations in where PSVG is the idea of what a new console is, right? And I think and someone else in our conversation said, well, a new console is defined by having a new architecture, right? Having a different way that at its heart the machine runs differently. And I'm like, that's a very like relative definition for what a new console is, right? Like who is to say that that's the only way you can define a new console? At the end of the day, a new console at its core is a machine that takes the technology to the next level and allows you, it gives developers a better way of maximizing and optimizing new technologies to develop better games. And if the Xbox One Scorpio, it may not have a new architecture, but if it is the best machine that Microsoft can, if it is the next machine that Microsoft feels will empower developers and gamers to go to the next level of gaming, then in relatively speaking, it is a new console. It may not be what people want a new console to be, but it is a new console under some definitions of what a new console is. And I think like right now we have the technical specs, but I have a feeling that Microsoft chose to do this now and not at E3 because they want E3 to be focused on what the machine can actually deliver for the customer and not on the technical capabilities that they covered this past week.
And they'll focus on the games, which is what Microsoft's been always, every E3 they focus on games, and they do that great. Mm-hmm. But before Kevin goes, there was a question that I wanted to ask, and this can be for you guys now, but for anyone listening, if they want to chime in on the website or on Twitter, just tweet it. It's kind of a 3-part question. So my question to you guys is, they released Scorpio. What's your guess at costs? What is the lowest you think you'd be in for, and what is the highest you'd be in for? Meaning like no more than $1 over this, I wouldn't buy it.
I go first.
Go ahead, Kevin. Yeah.
Here. Digital Foundry already kind of said that there's no way this thing is under $500. They said it can't be cheaper than the PS4 Pro just because of the technology that they're using inside of it. So I think looking at least 500, between 500 and 600 is my guess. For me to be in, so that's tough because for me it's not necessarily. Well, I should say it is. The price is definitely a factor for me because I'm one of the cheapskates of the PSVG crew. So, but realistically, I paid $400 for my PS4, so it can be done. I would have no problem paying $400 for a new Xbox Scorpio, but not because of technology, but if they have something to make me want to jump. I think that's the biggest thing a lot of gamers forget about is that, oh, hey, I got a PS4. Hey, I got an Xbox One. Why would I want to get the other console? Well, if there's not enough games to sell you on that experience, you're probably not going to jump. So for me, yeah, I would love to play Gears of War. I mean, there are a few handful of titles that I would like to play for on an Xbox One, but it's not enough to make me spend the money for the console and then the money on the games on top of that. So if Microsoft really wants to try and gain more market share, which I said this on the Slack chat actually too, was for business sense, the Scorpio can't just be something they're selling to people who already have an Xbox One. That doesn't make sense. You have those guys already in your pocket. You need to expand your market share to keep that growth going forward. You need to get people to jump from the PS4. You need to get people to jump who maybe don't even have a gaming console or just have a Nintendo, but you need to get those people on Microsoft's bandwagon that's not on it already. That's clearly what Nintendo is trying to do with the Switch and what it's doing, making it portable and home. They're trying to capitalize, get more people that say, well, I can only play it on a bus. Well, okay, that's fine. Go ahead, only play it on a bus. You can do that. Or I want to play with a group of people. Okay, you can still play with a group of people. Like it's available to everybody. Not saying Microsoft needs to do something like that because that's not really what their market is, but bring the games that I can't experience anywhere else, and you got to bring enough, and they got to be good enough to make me say, I want to go out and buy this. So for me, I think the most I would pay for is $400. And to be completely fair, I think the least I would pay, or that I would say is acceptable, would be $300 for me. But like I said, they'd have to bring the games. That's really the stipulation, not so much the pricing. It would be the content that it needs to bring to make me want to jump. But for somebody who already has an Xbox, then I want to hear you two guys answer. So Q, why don't you go ahead since I cut you off?
No, you're fine. I don't completely at a glance agree with what you said Xbox has to do. You said, well, this cannot be for current Xbox gamers because they already have that market share. And then you compared it to the Switch. And I'm like, look, everyone who I know has a Switch already owned the Wii U. And there might be a couple people that's not the case for. But I don't have a Switch. Nintendo didn't capture me with a Switch, and they haven't yet, right? So far, I feel like Nintendo hasn't really expanded its market share beyond what the Wii U and the Wii already held.
Well, it's going to be sorry to cut you off. I want to clarify a little bit then.
Fine.
So I'm not talking like 75% of people need to jump. Like, yes, absolutely, Xbox guys are going to buy it, but business-wise, they should be trying to capitalize. Maybe let's say 25% of people who buy this console need to be somebody who never had one before. So, well, you may not know somebody. Well, you do know somebody because Seth did not have a Wii U.
There we go.
So he's one there, and I know two other people in real life who did not own a Nintendo console since GameCube or earlier who have bought a Switch. So it's out there. It's not going to be these giant numbers, like I said, and I wouldn't expect it to be. But business-wise, you'd have to expect Microsoft should be like, okay, well, we know the Xbox guys, whether they buy this or not, if they already have one, that's fine. But we want to capture, let's say, 20. I think 25% is probably a fair goal that what they should be driving for to get people to buy it for the first time. So sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're fine. I'm not sure what Microsoft's strategy actually is. Like, I mean, like that's all very much like, I mean, when you listen to their language, when they're describing this machine, they're describing it as the console for the elite gamers, the console for the people that want to take their gaming experience to the next level. That is not most people that own consoles out there. Most people that own PS4s, most people that own Xboxes are not hardcore gamers. I mean, the circles that we are surrounded by, everyone at PSVG is a hardcore gamer. That's not the standard console owner. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure this console is trying to break the market. I don't think I'm not quite sure that's what Phil Spencer is going for. I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the day, Phil Spencer is completely satisfied with current Xbox owners buying a Scorpio, and that being the main strategy right there. I'm buying a Scorpio. And why? Because I want to play my Xbox games on the best experience possible. And when they do release those super patches that make Xbox One games super high quality and better, which that will happen, I want to play it on the best console possible. I'm not sure. I mean, I think what I've been reading, not only among our PSVG crew, but also out there, is that everyone's trying to tell Microsoft what they should be doing and what they should be putting their money on. And at the end of the day, I don't think everyone who's making those comments, no one's getting paid the bucks that the guys at Microsoft are getting paid to make those decisions. So I feel we're gonna be surprised come E3 and come Q3 this year by the decisions that Microsoft has decided to make for the foreseeable future. Yeah. I think I was listening to another podcast earlier today. At the end of the day, if you don't like the IPs that Microsoft currently has, you're not part of what maybe the market that Xbox is trying to reach.
So what do you think?
This is the last thing that I'll say. Everyone talks about making up the console numbers of PlayStation 4. Like, Xbox has to pick up their game and catch up. I'm like, no CEO, no Phil Spencer is walking into a meeting with Microsoft and saying this is the strategy that will make up 20 million consoles with PS4. Because that's not a realistic strategy. Like that's not a smart goal, which they use in analysis, business analysis. That's obviously not what Microsoft is is building their strategy on. And I feel like that's what everyone's comments are based on. Well, they got to capture PS4. They got to capture PS4. They got to capture. It's like, no one knows that. No one knows. And I feel like everyone is just shooting. Everyone's hip shooting on this issue. And at the end of the day, there is a very awesome, fancy PowerPoint in Phil Spencer's computer that actually has Xbox strategy for the future. And I don't think it's anything that we've talked about so far. So.
Fair enough. So what's your number? What do you think it's going to cost, and what would you want to pay?
I think Xbox would love to sell it at $500. I think they should take a hit and sell it at $400. It's convenient. It's convenient for them that if this comes out, if it's scheduled to come out in November, they can market it as a Christmas, a Christmas offer. Sell it at $400, telling people, by the way, come January, this is going to go back to $500. So
that'd be a great strategy. And I think at $400, that's going to get people really excited about it for it too. If they just drop it out at E3 saying, hey, this is coming out, it's going to be like $400, that it's getting a lot of people to jump on that for sure.
And I think at the end of the day, the reason why the market price, what they should sell it at $400 is because the PS4 Pro is $400, and I'm sure there'll be a crazy Horizon PS4 bundle in the fall that is going to be a big threat to the Scorpio and its possible market share. So
makes sense. So Josh, why don't you answer your own question then?
I thought that might come up. So I just want to remind people, don't forget PlayStation. They were touting how much they were losing at the price they were selling their console for. So it's not unheard of for a company to put out a console under costs. So I think for me, I think it's gonna be 500. I think that they think it's gonna be a great number to come in at, and it is if it does everything that we've been told it's gonna do. For me, I'm in at 4, only because I just kind of upgraded to the Xbox One S for my day one console. I think the highest we'll see is 600, and that just really depends on what else we see at E3 about the rest of the console. Because I tried telling Donnie this and some of the guys on the chat. My Xbox isn't my gaming console. My Xbox is my everything. It's my TV. It's my internet. It's my gaming. It's my streaming. And I know that PlayStation can do some, if not all of those things, but that's me. That's what I do. That's what my Xbox is. When Xbox One came out, I could literally hook my cable box into my Xbox and use the One Guide to record and watch TV. And PlayStation didn't do that at the time. I don't know if it does now.
Nope.
So people, Xbox has evolved to being more than just a gaming console, and that's kind of what they've always wanted to be. So you're not just spending $400 to $600 on a gaming console. You're spending $400 to $600 on your receiver. Think of it that way. I mean, God knows if you're a audiophile, you spent $600 on a Yamaha receiver once in your life. So it's just one of those things where I can't wait to be blown away by the Microsoft press conference, because they do it every year. I don't think this year's going to be any different. I think the big question is, how much time are they going to spend on Scorpio?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens down the line. I'm in the wait and see category. Like I said, if they're marketing to me, which, like you said, they may not even be marketing to me, and that's completely fair. I agree. But if they are in fact going to have a focus on trying to grow the market share there, they don't have to hit PS4 numbers, but I'm sure they'll like to get closer to what the competition has. But as we all know, Sony did PS3 at a way less sales than what the Xbox 360 did, and they're still around. They're fine. Like that's not going to kill them. So if Xbox has a generation where they're behind, that's not putting them out of business. It's not going to get them to say, we're going to stop making games, because either way, they're making money hand over fist regardless. So I'm definitely in the wait and see camp, and I want to see what else is coming out. And I think I forget who brought it up. I think it was Josh brought it up initially, saying like, hey, this is going to be backwards compatible with every 360 game and every Xbox One game. If they're really doing that, and that's a day one type thing, then as much of an anti-half generation upgrade person I am, you can count that as a full upgrade, as a new console, like altogether, because, and it's fine because you're not closing anybody out. My concern was going to be if they started making Scorpio games that everybody has an Xbox One, and be like, well, what the heck do I do with this stuff I just bought? This stuff isn't even 3 years old yet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if they're able to use it on the new console, all of it, then it doesn't matter. Now, if they trickle it out and do backwards compatibility as they're currently doing now, that's a whole different story. They can promise that eventually it's going to get there. I don't think they'll see as many people jumping ship. But for my money, if I was a betting man on this, if they came out and said the Scorpio's dropping, everything's backwards compatible day one, I would say you're probably going to see 70% of the people who have an Xbox One or One S right now upgrade to the Scorpio, no problem. Like, all right, I'm getting a better console. It's going to play better. It's going to run better. And everything I have is going to work. Done. And, you know, you're not spending that much more. You should be able to trade in your console at a good rate like we did. I mean, shoot, I got $250 for my Wii U. Like, and that was $320, I think, when I bought it, $325 or something like that. So I got, you know, $100 off for using it for the last 5 years. So these people should have no problem getting, you know, most of their money back and then a small fee to upgrade, and that's fine. But yeah, I'm in the wait and see camp for E3, so I'm excited to see what they bring. But yeah, I have a feeling they're going to try to not spend too much time on Scorpio and kind of focus more on the games. And I think that's a good call if they do. But
the one thing that I wanted to add is when you look at the media aspect that influences gamers, when you look at the IGNs, when you look at the GameSpots, the Kotakus, and even beyond that, a tier below that, I would say are the really big YouTube channels out there that, you know, like, oh man, like, unfortunately, I can only think of Angry Joe right now. I don't know. Like the guys that, you know, people like those guys, they review something within the first 24 hours and they already have like 500,000 views on a video. You know what I'm talking about? Like these big, and they, at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, they influence a lot of gamers. They influence a lot of people with their opinions, with their reviews. If games start coming out in the fall and next year, and the best experience will be on the Scorpio because of either graphics or, I mean, I don't know, just go down the list. If the best experience across the board is this on the Scorpio, and reviewers and the media are using the Scorpio for their reviews, how is that going to impact gamers moving forward and the games that they buy and the console that they choose to play it on? I think that's something that no one is really talking about. The influence of, like, what is the most powerful console? What are reviews and all this stuff? What consoles are they using for that stuff? And how is that impacting, like, just the general, the rank and file gamers who are like, I want to play the next Call of Duty in the best console. What console is that? It may be the Xbox, the Scorpio down the road. So that's something that PS4 needs to think, the PlayStation needs to think about it. I'm sure they already are. So
I agree. You guys are exhausting me from all this Xbox talk. Josh, any quick final thoughts before we move on?
I think we covered most of it. I'll tell you this. So I did have a thought while Q was talking in my head just seconds ago. And it's how long till the next console? And it really bummed me out because, like, if we get a PS4 Pro last year, and we get a Scorpio this year, I'm just worried that we're going to be looking at new tech in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a few times in my whole gripe with the half generation upgrades, which, like I said, a generation of gaming isn't really dictated by it needs to be X amount of years. But my thing is we looked at games like The Last of Us that came out at the end of the PS3's life cycle, essentially, and looked better than anything we saw before with no technological upgrades from somebody playing it on the original PS3, you know, the big piano black one they called it, and then the most recent slim model. Gaming developers, because they get this tech very early and they work on this stuff for years, the game has to be compatible when it launches. And we see them working on stuff for the longest time and never really meeting that max potential that a console can push out until much later in the life cycle. And personally, I think, and I mean, depending on gamers, I mean, you might say I'm wrong, but looking at PS4 games now, looking at original Xbox One games right now, they don't look bad. But they also don't look, to me, leaps and bounds like mind-blowingly better than what PS3 and Xbox 360 offered. It's not like when you went from PS2 to PS3, you saw major upgrades. You were dropping the polygons and stuff like that, or N64 to GameCube. You lost a lot of that stuff. This current generation from Wii U to Switch and 360 to 1 and PS3 to PS4, yeah, things do look better, hands down. You can't argue about that. But it's not to the point that like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. It's so much better. So now it just seems like, are we getting into a hardware race where everyone just needs to be the first one out with whatever the newest thing is? When developers are sitting there saying, whoa, we're just figuring this thing out. We're trying to push the max on this now. And you're bringing us a new one? And then 3 years from now, we're going to see another one? So I'm with you, Josh. I don't think it's the right move for gamers, gaming developers. I think it really only benefits the hardware manufacturers, because that's kind of the only way they make money. Yes, they get money from licensing games and having games released, but Microsoft's not making money or a lot of money off the games. They're making the money off the consoles. Same thing with any of them. That's what their money is, and then allowing developers to publish. But you look at like indie devs, they can't afford to keep getting dev kits every 2 years when they may take 3 to 4 years on a passion project. And ultimately, I think that just hurts everybody big picture. We see less and less stuff come out, and we're only getting games from AAA developers, which for some people is fine, but I think we've all played at least a couple of games that wasn't AAA that were like, this is better than, the last Assassin's Creed I played or something like that nature where, they'll surprise you. And I think that could be in trouble if we see this trend. So I'm with you.
If I could play devil's advocate to myself, I would say this. Think about how console gamers, how good we have it. Being a PC gamer myself, $500 every 3 to 5 years is nothing for a PC gamer. It's a graphics card and more memory or a new motherboard or a whole new rig. So we have this like inherent like reasons I want to complain when we get stuck with having to upgrade a new console, because really what you said, the developers are suffering the most because they have to put this game together that's gonna last on this architecture of a console that may last 10 years. And, as if you look at the regular Xbox, maybe Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, as the console got older, the more people figured out how to use all the power from it.
Yep.
So you could kind of see things like that. But when you have a PC, like you get a game that is built on the best possible configuration that's available to a manufacturer that isn't even in the consumer's hands yet. So imagine buying Doom when it came out on the best console, on the best gaming rig you can buy when Doom came out, and then playing Doom today on the best gaming rig you could buy today. It's going to be like the Xbox One to the Xbox Scorpio graphically, because you can just tweak every aspect of your computer. So, I mean, we have the right to complain about having to buy new hardware every whatever, but if you put it in comparison to Jason and Lucas and now UKEV and people who have gaming rigs, you're going to be, if you want to stay competitive and you want to stay what's the word? Relevant, you need to dish out that money every 3 to 5 years. And I would argue PC gamers have to do it every 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. The only thing with that is like, so okay, if you make that move where you need to buy new hardware every couple of years, you're going to see. So look at how many PC gamers there are versus console gamers.
Yeah,
I think that's the thing, is you're going to shut out part of the market because they're going to get sick of buying them. It's not going to be a matter of, okay, I guess this is what I got to do. It's some households and some families and be like, guess what, kids? You're playing baseball. Go outside. Here's a bat and a ball. You're done. You don't need to upgrade your bat and ball for 20 years. Whatever the case is. So I think that'll hurt the industry a little bit if it goes that route. But you're right. We're complaining about something that people already have been dealing with and have been dealing with for a long time. To be honest, it's a smaller base, and I think that's where we would see it going if it goes that route. So I don't know. But all right, we've babbled on long enough. So I think we're all on board with let's wait and see what happens at E3. Let's see what really the Scorpio is, other than just the tech specs thrown out, because yes, on paper they're absolutely impressive. In the testing that they did, absolutely impressive, and a graphical increase over the Xbox One S right now. But let's see what else it does. We're putting the cart before the horse here and saying, well, it's just, it's a little more powerful. It's a little more powerful than the PS4 Pro. But okay, like Josh said, what else is it going to do? It can be so much more. So let's not read too much into the tech specs. Is it impressive? Yes. Can anybody dispute that? No. I mean, well, they can, but they're wrong if they do. On paper, it's a great looking console. It's impressive, but without the pricing to go along with it, and what games is it going to play? Is it going to be the same games but upscaled? Is it going to have its own, section in Target now where it's not the Xbox One games, it's the Xbox Scorpio games, wherever it is? Those are all factors we're going to have to wait and see till E3. So we'll put that conversation on hold, and we'll definitely revisit it when the time comes, when we do our crazy E3 coverage again this year, I'm sure. So yeah, it's that time, boys and girls. We're going to send you off into that dark, cold night. But before we do, we're going to plug some stuff and tell you where you can connect with us on the personal level if you'd like to do so. Josh, why don't you go first?
Find me on Twitter, Josh Bones. You can find me on PSN and Xbox as Why So Serious. I'm on the Switch. God knows how you can find me. That's such a convoluted system.
Your friend code is 032. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. We do have to get those on the website, though. We should really do that, because if you played the phone games with us, you can link up right away. It'll pick it up on your Switch, but otherwise, we'll have to get those up on the site.
Yeah. Make sure you check out the site. I mean, with the baby, I haven't been on doing too much, but I'll have a review out soon. I did want to mention real quick, I didn't mention it earlier, much to the shock of probably my Xbox buddies, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, Horizon passed Mass Effect 2 as my favorite game of all time. So if you have not played Horizon Zero Dawn, go get it. And if you got to wait till Black Friday to buy that bundle, get it. It's worth it. You got to play this game. I missed out on that on the review cast, which really bums me out. But I hadn't finished the game, and I really wanted to be on top of my game. But shout out to Haley and Kyle for kicking butt on that review cast. And that's all I got.
Good, man. I'm glad you enjoyed that much, that it overtook for you. It's good to hear. You don't hear that necessarily too much very often. You're like, this is my new favorite game of all time. It's always something more nostalgic for us. That's cool.
It's not the best game ever made. I
know your favorite.
But it's my favorite game of all time.
There's definitely a difference between favorite and best. I agree with you there 100%. So, Q, why don't you tell people where they can find you, maybe what else and other stuff you're working on?
You can find me on Xbox at Lobo Rican. I'm not gonna pronounce it the fun way, because if you do it too often, it loses its power. You gotta save it. It's like the spirit bombing Dragon Ball Z. You can't use. No, they use it for every bad guy. Never mind, they do use it for everyone. And I used to be on Twitter at Lobo Rican Power, but now you can find me at Unrated Podcasts. So have fun, kids.
Yeah. I'm sure Q will have more to say about that later, but for any of Mo's students out there, or anybody, 16 or under, maybe? I don't know. What we play?
I don't know, man. I don't know what the rules are on iTunes. If something says like explicit language, I don't know what you're supposed to like. I mean, is that like a 16 and up? Is that like
I don't know. I think it's just listed as explicit. So it's kind of what you feel is responsible for.
Right.
Out there. So it's whatever you want to say, but basically Q's working on something that I think probably some of the PSVG cast will pop in and out of and make some appearances, but it's not as family friendly as the product you get here normally, guys. So for you dads listening in the cars with your kids, save that one for when you're at work or at the gym or something. Listen to Unrated Podcast when that drops. But what is it? Unratedpodcast.com? Is that where they can find out more info?
That's the website. We're still planning a schedule to release it. So.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Good for you.
There you have it. So more fun coming out of the camp. So our other buddy, brother, sister podcast, cousin podcast, whatever you want to call them. So make sure you check out Flux the Pose at fluxthepose.com. And That's Entertaining at that'sentertaining.net. Hit us up at the website, playsomevideogames.com. Follow us once again at Twitter at PSVG. If you want to follow me specifically at PSVG Kevin. Lately, it's just a bunch of tweets and pictures about G Fuel, and that probably won't stop anytime soon. But hey, it is what it is, and at least I'm using it more now. You can find us and link up with us on Facebook as well. So facebook.com/play some video games. And then check out us on the YouTubes. Q's been pumping a lot of content out over there, and I know some of the guys have been doing some review stuff, and that'll be going up there streaming as well. So make sure you follow and subscribe there, youtube.com/play some video games. And if you really want to torture yourself, you can watch the podcast in video format on the YouTube as well. So you can feel free to do so there. So yeah, that's all we got for this week, boys and girls. Once again, we're going to try and have that Zelda review cast happen this week. We had a rough week staff-wise. Basically, last week for everybody kind of had stuff going on, and poor Devin was supposed to join us tonight, and that didn't happen last minute there as well. So we wish everybody luck, and thank you for listening each and every week as you do, each and every week as we show up here and do this as well. But more importantly, whether it's on a Scorpio, whether it's an Xbox One S, whether it's an NES Classic, or you're pirating stuff on the internet via an emulator, just never stop gaming.